All right, let's take one more deep dive into the Week 1 matchup with the Dolphins. Tommy Curran still down in Florida. Phil, you guys will be like ships passing in the night when you head down for the game this weekend. But you have your matchups that will determine the outcome of Sunday's game. Guys, we're going to go through them one by one. There are 5 of them. Let's start with number 1. The matchup that will decide the first half, Phil says, is the Patriots front 7 against the Dolphins rushing attack.
Yeah, I think this is really important because we know the system that Mike McDaniel comes from is that Shanahan system in San Francisco. Shanahan loves his running game, and McDaniel will too. And I think with a young quarterback who's still going to be getting his feet wet in a new system, a guy who's got a lot of pressure on him, the best thing you can do for him is establish something on the ground. Now, the Patriots had a heck of a time trying to stop the run at different points last year, but this rushing attack, Tom, to me, is something that Bill Belichick and his defense will have to be focused on. It's that front 7. It's Lawrence Guy, Devon Godshaw, this new-look linebacker group. These guys have to be on their P's and Q's to force the ball into Tua's hands and force him to make plays through the air.
Love that angle, Phil, because it makes so much difference to their entire offense. You remember when San Francisco came in with Jimmy Garoppolo in 2020 and played the Patriots, they ran wild using that scheme. Raheem Mostert and is one of the backs who is with Miami now. He's extremely fast. They have just such great team speed. So if the Patriots try and go heavy to stop the run, you could see them throwing it out wide. Or if they go light, you could see them going right at him. Big game for Kyle Duggar in the running game, too,
Ooh.
I would predict, Phil.
All right, matchup number 2, Tommy Curran. What do you think of this one? The matchup that will surprise you, according to Phil, Jonathan Jones against Tyreek Hill. I don't know if that'll be a pleasant or an unpleasant surprise.
Well, it's going to be great. And I asked Jonathan Jones today if one of the biggest chores is actually going to be just finding him and communicating where Tyreek Hill is, because it's not the Kansas City offense. The Patriots have no idea how he'll be deployed. Is he going to be next to Tua? Is he going to be in shotgun? Is he going to be split out wide, the slot, motioned? So there's a lot of work there for the Patriots to take care of. But Jonathan Jones has been a somewhat neutralizer in the last 3 times the Patriots saw Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, he's been really good in terms of the numbers. When he was targeted by Patrick Mahomes in coverage, he performed really well against Tyreek Hill. But I'm with Tom. I think they're going to try to use Hill the way Deebo Samuel is used in San Francisco. So there's going to be jet handoffs. They're going to use him down the field like this. They're going to use him in the screen game. So if it's Jonathan Jones tracking him, he has to be able to use that speed that he has. It's not quite Tyreek Hill speed, but it's really good speed to follow him all over the field.
Well, if you watch Early Edition, you know we're all about positivity and joy on this show. And Phil Perry tells me the matchup that will bring you joy is Matt Judon against Austin Jackson.
Matt Judon, to me, was one of the most impressive players all summer long at Patriots training camp. It felt like every single day he came up with a sack or 2. And when he gets to go against less than tackles, we saw it last year, there'd be an injury, go up against a backup or go up against a rookie, he would absolutely feast, Tom. And that will be the case this week. If he goes against Austin Jackson, first-round pick from a couple years ago, has been a massive disappointment in Miami, I think he could have a game-changing type of performance.
And they need that. They need that pressure up front, because if they're going to choose to play zone, which they may do against Miami, then they need to get a pass rush that's going to force the ball to come out, because if everybody's playing space, eventually Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, or Gesicki are going to find a spot, or Cedric Wilson, who I had neglected to even remember was on the Dolphins until 2 days ago.
Well, I don't think you'll forget about this because, Tom, according to Phil, the matchup that's going to take years off our life, and we need those years at this point, the Patriots offensive line against the Dolphins blitz.
Yeah, it's going to be worth sweating over, which is why they came down here early in the first place. It's communication. To me, how well are they going to be able to communicate what is coming? And are they eventually going to have to say, well, we're not getting it done with 5. Now we have to keep extra players in, tight ends in, backs in, and they can't run the offense because they can't protect, because communications are an issue, Phil. I'm guessing that's a key part of your reasoning for that.
It's huge, and it's something they've struggled with really all summer without seeing much in the way of blitzes. You know, when they practiced against the Raiders, when they practiced against the Panthers, in that preseason game against the Raiders, there really wasn't much, Trenni, in terms of exotic blitzes being thrown at them. And that's something that the Dolphins have thrown at opposing offenses more than maybe any defense in football over the last couple of years. Josh Boyer, former Patriots assistant, he's going to be dialing up the heat all afternoon long.
All right, and last but certainly not least, Phil, your matchup that will determine the game, Devonta Parker against Xavier Howard.
Yeah, and I'm not sure this is a matchup that the Patriots can win. In all honesty, Xavier Howard is an all-pro level corner, but the way you slow down that Dolphins blitz, the way you keep some pressure off of Mac Jones is by hitting a few plays down the field. Devonta Parker gives them something in that regard that they didn't have last year, a true boundary threat, somebody who can win a jump ball 20, 30 yards along the sideline, Tom. If you can hit on a couple of those and soften up the Dolphins defense, force them to play 2 high safeties, I think that could have a great domino effect on the rest of the Patriots offense and really give them a chance in this game.
Phil has pounded that drum since last year. Teams were not worried about the Patriots down the field, so they could really load the box against their running game and against their short passing game. You get that done with Devonta Parker down the field, you open things up for Jonnu Smith on crossers. You open things up for Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne. It's a key that unlocks the door. That was a great segment. Good stuff by Phil and Trenni. Great job
You
on
too,
that.
Tom.
I thought that was
Way
fun.
to go.
Just
Way to work.
steering the ship. All right, this is how Mac Jones fared against the Dolphins last season. In week 1, he threw a touchdown. He was only sacked 1 time. In the regular season finale, though, he had a touchdown, was sacked twice. We're going to bring Amina Smith now to run through some fine lines for Sunday's game. So these are, some betting lines. And we're going to start with Mac Jones touchdown passes versus Mac Jones sacks. Last year, and Amina, we'll start with you. His sacks were more than his touchdowns thrown. How do you think that line is going to play out this week?
I think it's going to play out the exact same way. I don't trust that offensive line just yet to see if they can protect Mac Jones. Mac Jones even a little bit complained about it during training camp and also the preseason, how he wished he had more time in the pocket. So with them trying to figure out what's happening on offense, I give the Miami Dolphins defense the edge in terms of getting to Mac Jones.
Yeah, I think there's something to this Dolphins front. They have enough in the way of power with some of their interior guys. And again, they're going to be bringing those blitzes right over, I would imagine, rookie first-round pick Cole Strange. I think it's probably going to be the sacks that are in the greater than column this week.
I still think I'm going to go veering a little bit here, but I agree with them on the numbers. But I think the Patriots are still going to be a run-it-in football team. You remember, Damian Harris had 15 touchdowns on the ground last year. Even though they've had some running game, obviously, difficulties as they pivot, they could still get it done in a straight-ahead style.
All right, but I'm going to go with the rest of you. More sacks than touchdowns. But that doesn't mean he won't throw any. All right, because you just mentioned Damian Harris, Tom, I'm going to go to you with this next one. Who has more touches on Sunday, Damian Harris or Ramondre Stevenson?
Oh, there's some really interesting numbers out there on DraftKings, by the way, that I just saw. It was Ramondre Stevenson under 39.5, over under 39.5 yards rushing. He's going to be over, and he's going to have more touches than Damian Harris as well. Phil, I want to hear what you think on this because you are a huge Mondre guy.
Yeah, give me all of the over on that 39.5 because even though Ty Montgomery practiced this week, I really don't think he's going to have an impact on the game on Sunday. That means he's going to see some work as a receiver. He should see some work between the tackles. To me, Amina, he's their most talented back. I think we're going to see it as early as week 1.
Hey, you guys know I had Ramondre Stevenson stock last season, so I'm continuing that this season. I think he gets more touches in week 1, not only because of the fact that Ty Montgomery questionable for this game in week 1, but also Bill Belichick during preseason and camp, he was pretty high on Ramondre Stevenson, so I think there's opportunity for him right there.
I can't disagree. Stevenson's going to have more touches, but Harris might get in the end zone more because that's how they're going to use those guys. All right. Phil Perry, are we going to see Matt Patricia's sideline shots, more of those during the game, or are we going to see more interceptions thrown by Tua?
I think it has to be Matt Patricia sideline shots. There's so much interest in who's going to be calling plays, how the sideline operation is going to function. And Tua, for everything that we have said about him, and he's not the most impressive quarterback in football, it's not like he has a sky-high interception percentage over the course of his career, so I'll go with Patricia here.
So, Amina, you can go next.
Oh, okay. I think that is definitely going to be Matt Patricia in terms of all eyes being on him. I think the rest of the league is just as curious as everyone here in New England as to what Matt Patricia can do as a play caller. So I think that all eyes will literally be on Matt Patricia come week 1.
I agree. I just hope they do a great job targeting the sideline so that we get plenty of video. Otherwise, we're going to be relying very heavily on Phil, which is I'm happy to do, as he reports via Twitter throughout the game on, okay, Okay, Matt's not talking to Jones. No, they're not talking to Jones. Nobody's near him. Nobody's near him.
Phil's got good eyes during
I'll
the
have
game.
the binoculars
He's
on
got
there,
good
Tom.
eyes
Don't you
during the
worry,
game.
buddy.
It is going to be Matt Patricia, Matt Patricia, Matt Patricia, only because the entire storyline all offseason is who is going to be calling plays. So if we don't see a million shots of Matt Patricia and or Bill Belichick, and if Joe Judge is also on the sidelines, like that is what we are going to see. All right, last one, guys. We're going to have a little fun here with this one as well. Amina, Bill Belichick, are we going to get more one-line answers in his post-game press conferences or more dad jokes from Mike McDaniel?
Ooh, this is a good one, but I think more dad jokes from Mike McDaniel. I think he enjoys being up at the podium, telling those jokes, getting everyone in the room to laugh, and maybe they do laugh, maybe they don't laugh. I have no idea, but as much as I know that Bill Belichick will get up there and just give one word, one-line answers in the post-game presser, I'm going to bank on more jokes from Mike McDaniel.
Always go over Mike McDaniel jokes when given the opportunity. There's always a zinger somewhere in every single answer, Tom, isn't there?
I would say absolutely bury the Bill Belichick one-word or one-line answers. The reason being, they've been down here since Tuesday. He wants to get off of the podium, out of whatever he's wearing, because it's probably stinking to high heaven after 6 hours in the heat, and get home. So he will be tight afterwards.
I'm on Team Tom here also. As you'll find out later, many of us have the Patriots losing the game. He's going to be salty. He is going to be cranky. Get ready, Phil, for a bunch of... You saw the game, Phil. We'll look at the tape.
I don't know. It's been a little bit of a different build this summer. It's been a little different.
All right. Well, as soon as that Patriots-Dolphins game ends on Sunday, make sure to switch right over to us on NBC Sports Boston. Amina Smith, Michael Holley, Tommy Curran, Phil Perry, Matt Castle, and Ted Johnson will have a full breakdown plus reaction from the locker room.